Good morning, everyone. When you walk along the Intercoastal here in Palm Beach, you see the beautiful boats all along the Intercoastal. It reminds me of the story of this Jewish couple that were arguing about whether or not to buy a boat. The husband really wanted to buy a boat, and the wife said, no way. Finally, they compromised, and they agreed that he could buy a boat, he'll buy the boat, but she'll get to name the boat. And so he goes out and buys this beautiful boat, and she's going to name the boat. And he goes out finally to see what she named the boat. And right there on the boat, there are the words, for sale. You know, Jackie Mason once said that Jews don't only buy boats to show it to others. Matter of fact, he said, if the boat doesn't have an engine, he wouldn't even know it. Because a Jew doesn't need a boat. He only buys it to show it to you. Well, whether or not Jews need boats or like boats, one thing is for sure, that a home is critical to being a Jewish family. To be a Jew means to have a home that is infused with Judaism. A matter of fact, the very first letter of the entire Torah is Bet. And the question is, why isn't it Aleph, which is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet? And one explanation is that the word Bayit is the letter Bet, means a home. And the fundamental structure of Judaism is the Jewish home. And that is why in this week's Torah portion, when the Jewish people are about to leave Egypt, they sit down for the Paschal Seder. They eat the Korban Pesach and have the first meal known as the Seder, which would be the final meal that they have in Egypt, celebrating their imminent freedom. The Torah says that this Seder, this meal, should be eaten with the family. The Torah says each household should take a sheep and prepare it as a Paschal lamb to celebrate the exodus from Egypt. And the Torah specifically says that it should be eaten by families. And indeed, until this very day, the most important meal of the year is the Passover Seder, the meal in which the generations gather together and communicate Jewish values and identity, a conversation that goes through the generations that's been going on for over 3,300 years. This most critical and central service, known as the Passover Seder, where we tell the story to our children, is not conducted in the synagogue or in some sacred space, but in our very homes. Because in Judaism, the home is the central location of Jewish life. It's not the synagogue. It's the home where the father and the mother serve as the spiritual leaders, and the children are the stars around the table. And that is how Judaism has survived and thrived throughout thousands of years, because we always knew that the home was the most central place of Jewish life, and Judaism is only passed on in the home because that's where the majority of the commandments are observed. And therefore the very first observance of the Jewish people was in the home, because God was telling the Jewish people, yes, you're about to become a nation, but remember, the strength of the nation is dependent on the home and the family. It is the family, the mishpacha, that determines the strength of the Jewish people. And this is a critical message as we become a Western individualized society where everyone just thinks and looks out for themselves. We have to remember that in Jewish life, it's the family unit that is most critical and most essential. Last night I had a beautiful experience. There's a wonderful organization called Chai Lifeline. Chai Lifeline is an organization that takes care of medically fragile children with cancer or other illnesses. And the families go through so many challenges dealing with the medical struggles. And they have a team of volunteers, of young boys and girls, who help visit the hospitals and support these families with everything they need to lighten their burden and to bring joy to these children. And Chai Lifeline had a concert last night with a famous Israeli entertainer by the name of Yishai Ribo. He's an amazing singer, one of the greatest stars in Israel, and he was in Florida, and they had a concert just for families with medically fragile children. And it was in a parking lot in Fort Lauderdale, the back of a synagogue, and it was conducted, on the lawn with this beautiful concert for families who are going through many, many struggles. And we are friends with a family that has a child that's going through some medical challenges, and we invited to come and participate. And it was an intimate concert with maybe just 30, 40 families, a couple of hundred people. And the feeling there was just so beautiful to see all these families together and the love. And you saw parents whose children were in wheelchairs lifting their kids out of the wheelchairs to dance with them because the children unfortunately didn't have the legs to dance on their own. Children who lost their hair because they're battling cancer, or children who you can't tell what their struggle is, but you saw these children smile and sing and dance and have a wonderful time. And the director of the organization, Matt, told me that Isha Ribo, this beautiful young singer, was invited to Florida to perform for a private concert during Corona now. For this wealthy family, brought him in for a concert for his family. And he reached out to Chai Lifeline and said, I want to do a concert for you, for your children, for the families who are struggling. And not only didn't he take any money for the concert, but he actually made a donation to Chai Lifeline. And then Matt told me the most beautiful thing, that because they knew this concert was taking place at night and that music from the sound systems would be blaring, they went around to all the neighbors in the community there to let them know that there was this concert taking place for Chai Lifeline tonight, and would it be okay if the music would be blaring on the loudspeakers till about 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And the director of the organization, Chai Lifeline, told me that not only did they say it's okay, but many of them took out their checkbooks and wrote donations to help support this organization. Jewish people know that we're one big mishpacha, we're one big family. And whether we have a boat or not is not important. What's important is that we have a home and a beautiful Jewish family. We sit around the Shabbat and holiday table, and most importantly, the Passover Seder, which originates in this week's Torah portion, and we communicate Torah values and ideals and Jewish knowledge and love and passion for Yiddishkeit to our children and to our grandchildren. That is what has always and will always sustain and maintain the strength of the Jewish people. Have a wonderful day.